And what happens is we go from being in the crowd to the first level of the Billionaire Code, seeker. And here's what a seeker is. A seeker is that first level, just making the decision, stepping into entrepreneurship. And I want you guys to know something. Some of you might be very successful, but be a seeker right now. Because what a seeker is somebody who's making under $40,000 in what they want to be doing. The number of businesses in the United States total, check out these numbers, guys. This will blow you away. Especially, it gives perspective on what Russell's able to do with entrepreneurs. Because the number of businesses in the United States is right around 29 million. 16 million out of 29 million make less than $40,000 a year. How many of you are shocked by that? Crazy, huh? And so a seeker business is one where the person who's running it, their time is usually dabbling. Like you might be working full time, but you're not really doing the right things. How many of you know that equation? Like you're working your butt off, but nothing's moving forward? What's the question? You look perplexed. What was that? How do you live with 40,000? You suffer. Like how many of you have had a business that's made less than 40K? Like look around the room. I've been there. I've had a business that struggled like crazy. I think every entrepreneur has. Like you might not stay a long time there. When you're in seeker mode, your fallback question is, how do I stop pressure and noise? How many of you remember that feeling? Or actually, you know what? I just want to take a read on the room right now. And guys, I want you to understand something about the Billionaire Code. The level I respect the most, the level that I care about the most, the level that I'm most impressed by is seeker. Because it's the hardest level to step into. Separating from the magnetism of the crowd, from the safety of the crowd, taking the step to be vulnerable and real and say you're going to expose yourself to the challenges of making something happen and becoming a seeker is huge. How many people in the room are seekers right now? Stand up. How many of you are in this place right now? Stand up. There's a reason I'm having you stand up. Stand up. All right. Everyone else in the room, give these guys a round of applause. Thanks, guys. And if you're sitting next to one of them, if you saw who they are, I want everyone who has experience in this room to go up to one of the seekers or more and offer your help, because the fastest way to get into momentum is to give it to somebody else. Give someone some help and you'll prove it to yourself. So seekers, the biggest need is keystone habits, routine, taking care of yourself, setting outcomes, personal care. If you haven't done these things and you're above seeker, you have a liability. Because when you're at the lowest rung, it is all about you and what you are capable of. You have to do everything, so you must run routines and systems and processes to keep yourself sane. And to graduate seeker, this is a big one. You have to understand who you want to serve. And guys, I'll just tell you, the biggest mistake seekers make, and I would say the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make in general, is when they decide who they want to serve, it's everyone. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs have told me that their goal from seeker is to influence either 100 million or 1 billion people. Like that's the new thing. It really is. Like that, I don't know who's teaching the class where you create the goal to either influence 100 million or 1 billion people. Like I'll walk up to a seeker, oh, well, what are you trying to do? I want to influence 1 billion women to get empowered. I was like, what does that even mean? What do you mean? I'll ask a seeker, so what is it that you want to do? I want to help people all over the world understand themselves better. Oh man, you're going to have a hard time. It's like screaming into a stadium, I can help you, while the game's happening. Nobody hears. And so if you're in seeker mode, if you're in this place, figure out a niche that you can serve. If you walk into a room like this, there should only be a few people that are in that niche, and you should be able to pick them off fast and go close them. That's the most important thing of being a seeker. So let's move on from seeker. The next stage is starter. Now, this is going to blow you guys away when I show you the numbers. How many seekers in the world or in the United States? 16 million. How many businesses total? 29 million. Check this out. 6 million starters. So of the 29 million businesses in the United States, 22 million are under $100,000. How many of you are pretty proud of where you are today right now, right? Because the vast majority of businesses do not clear six figures. An organization like ClickFunnels that purports to have a 2 comma club is crazy when you look at the reality of entrepreneurship. It's insane. I walked around the offices yesterday. Dave Woodward and I counted over $1 billion in 2 comma club. Like, we know how much more the people had gone past, and the 2 comma club X plaques, like, they're lining the walls of that place. So it shows you just how effective this platform is. And starters, you're in this place, you're now no longer dabbling. Part-time, you're either working part-time or you're getting part-time effectiveness. You're doing the right things most of the time. The fallback question as a starter is, what is wrong with me? How many of you remember this feeling? Like, you're getting the business going, but you're like, why do I suck so bad? Right? Like, guys, I am intimate with this feeling. When I said earlier that when it comes to doing things in the world, I'm not good at most, I'm not kidding. Like, this is something I'm good at, speaking. But like, if you saw my day-to-day life, you'd be suspect of me doing anything else. And the biggest need as a starter is to clarify your market and your avatar. Like, get very clear on what market are you in and what avatar do you serve. It drives me nuts when I go to conferences that aren't ClickFunnels, because here, everybody's read Expert Secrets and .com Secrets, right? Yeah. Is there anybody who hasn't? Yeah, because it would be weird to admit that in this room. It really would. And if you haven't, like, guys, you should read those several times. I mean, my edition of Expert Secrets is like that thick because I've read it so many times it doesn't close anymore. That's how it should be. Because when you're in this place, market and avatar clarity changes everything. Far too often you talk to entrepreneurs and you're like, well, what market do you serve? Well, I'm in wealth management around relationships for people who want to grow business. Huh? The heck are you talking? I don't even know how to buy from you, much less want to. Get really clear on your market, your avatar, and to graduate, you have to start selling consistently. And consistency means simplicity. So I want to ask a question now. How many of you are in the starter place? Let's see hands. Hands really up high. And by the way, I've got like a kind of an eidetic memory, and if you don't raise your hand through this entire Billionaire Code thing, I'm going to remember you. I'll call you out. Cool, you're in the starter? Nice. So as a starter, sell consistently. Here's the biggest problem starters have. So the biggest problem seekers have is that the avatar is way too wide. The biggest problem starters have, and the starters in the room can confirm this for me, is that your businesses usually start looking like an Afghan bazaar. No, really, an Afghan bazaar. It's like you're doing one thing for one person, another thing for another person. You got this custom crap you're doing for another person. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? And there is zero simplicity in the business. And you wake up every day going, why can't I get ahead? Well, because nothing you're doing is the same every day, right? Steve, you know what I'm talking about? 100%. Right? My whiteboard has 20 customers on it. It's all custom. Wait, check. What did you just say?
So my whiteboard has around 20 customers. All of them are custom, one-off.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare every day.
And if I went into your office right now and I erased that whiteboard, what would happen?
It's on my phone.
He just had a...
I back everything up because I've done that. I've had like the nightmare and just been like, fuck it.
And then you had to go to your own backup?
Oh, I rewrote it. Like, yeah.
It's a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's brutal. So those of you who are in starter mode, simplify. When Russell says one funnel, one product, one sales process, to $1 million, everybody goes, I don't know if that'll work. What are you talking about? There's now hundreds of people who have a plaque on their wall that prove it absolutely works. Okay, so here's where things get interesting. We go from 100, because that 6-figure club. By the way, how many of you remember when you were like a little baby entrepreneur, seeker starter, right? And we've got a bunch in the room. We're going to help you guys today. But how many of you remember thinking, oh, if I just get to 6 figures? Remember that feeling? Like, I remember when I got to 6 figures, I'm like, why doesn't it feel like, it was like, I'm at 6 figures, right? It's so hard. Because here's what happens. You go from starter to promoter. And you can always tell a promoter at an event. They're the ones who already have the business cards out, right? Because promoters normally have figured out how to sell. Like you finally have a product you can sell. And guys, you're gonna see some mathematics here. It's the rule of 1s and 3s. When you go from 0 to 40, right when you hit 40, things get confusing. When you go from 40 to 100, how many of you are crossing the $100,000 threshold right now? Let's see, hands up high. Is it confusing? It sucks, doesn't it? Hang on one second. Why? Why is it so confusing?
Because you're in that process of no longer just doing it all on your own, and now you're having to leverage, and you get
But you don't have any money.
Yeah, and you get frustrated with the process that they can't speed it up as fast as you do it.
Yeah.
And then you're toggling between being nice and saying, get it done.
And just going back to doing it all yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, constantly.
Yes.
Right? How many of you have that dream of just going back to doing it all yourself? Right? How many of you had that dream like 2 times before lunch? Right? You know what I'm talking about. The number of promoters in the United States, I want you guys to see something. Look how fast this dropped off. 16 million, 6 million, 1.7 million. That's some serious drop off. 1.7 million in business in the United States, between $100,000 and $300,000 in revenue. And as a starter, this is where you're full time. Am I right? Like you didn't know you could work this full time, did you? No. It's awesome because we quit 40-hour-a-week jobs so that we can work like 80 for ourselves, right? Huh? Well, because we all want freedom, right? And the fallback question as a promoter is, how do I get ahead? And because it is all about you. It's you trying to get ahead. Am I right? And it's the most, it can be so challenging because your biggest need is to leverage your lead generation. It's how do you get more people coming towards you without having to do it all yourself? That's why this company is so revolutionary, because it solves the starter problem in a way that's so dynamic that it can actually propel you into the higher levels of the Billionaire Code before you even know what's going on. Like I'm helping people pick up the pieces at multiple millions of dollars and they're doing it all themselves. I've never seen that before in my entire career until this platform came along. ClickFunnels changes it. And so once you have leverage lead generation, to graduate, you generate leads and convert consistently. And here's the problem. If you didn't fix what was in the level before, if you didn't simplify in the level before, promoter will kill you. Because if you keep doing the custom work from 1 to 300,000, if every customer is different from 1 to 300,000, if every deal is different, you will break. Right? It looks like you've been there. Yeah.
I'm there right now.
Yeah. Can we get him some tissue, please? I'm just kidding. There was only one tear. So in promoter, the key is figure out who you sell, get them coming towards you, and convert consistently. And until you do that, stop doing anything else. I talk to promoters all the time. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm launching a podcast, writing a book. I'm going to do an interview series, and I'm doing Facebook Lives every day for 30 days. That's awesome. So your lead gen conversion's working really well? Not really. Then what the heck are you doing? One funnel, one product, one sales process, all the way to 7 figures, and then keep going. The next step after promoter, by the way, how many promoters in the room? I just want to see. Hands up high. Okay, cool. Good. Next level, I have no idea why that thing's doing things twice, so I just want to acknowledge it because I know for people like us, it's driving you crazy just like me. How many of you are like, why does it do that? Right? So the next stage, we go from promoter to builder. And this is, we're on our way to the 2 Comma Club, 300,000 to 1 million. How many of you are in builder right now? Hands up high, I want to see. All right. This is where things start getting interesting. There's actually more builder businesses in the United States than promoter. Here's why. When I first started doing this research and I took all the government numbers and loaded them into a spreadsheet, by the way, so much fun getting numbers from the government. Shit. Like the most confusing data ever. But we distilled it down and looked at it, and there's about 1.9 million builder businesses. Here's why. There's this dip at promoter, and it comes up to builder because doctors, lawyers, accountants, people like who have a professional license or who provide a professional service, they get stuck right here. And they just park at somewhere between 300,000 and a million, so there's more here than there is in the level before. I don't want you guys to get stuck because this is a painful place to be. How many builders in the room know that this hurts, right? It's brutal. Here's what it breaks down as a builder. Your time is now overtime. So I've got news for you. You know how you felt like you're working really hard right now? That was only full time. How many of you would agree? That from 300 to a million, you're like, I didn't know I could work this hard. And you keep saying it over and over again because now you're in a place where there's way more going on. Your fallback question is, how do I get further ahead? Again, it's still about you at Builder. It still has to be about you. And your biggest need is to leverage sales because what happens to most people in this place is they don't create a sales system that doesn't include them, so they're stuck forever. It's the doctor who has to talk to every client. It's the attorney who signs every new deal. It's the accountant who has to be in the room every time they get a new person that they're serving. How many of you are there where you're selling everything? Painful. Because when you solve leverage sales, and that's what you have to do to graduate here, you have to start building systems and process around what you do well. And I want to point something out to you about the Billionaire Code. As I pull up this larger sheet, I want you to understand something about moving this way on this framework. The more you ascend through the Billionaire Code, the more you have to change behavior. Everybody hear that? Because there's this thing with people like us. We resist behavioral change. How many of you know you resist behavioral change, right? If somebody says, hey, this is how you have to do it, how many of you already in your head have an equation that says, nah, right? We resist behavioral change. And here's something I want you to know about the Billionaire Code. I've helped hundreds of companies go from 0 to 7 figures and beyond. I've helped dozens of companies go to 8 figures and beyond. I've helped companies go to 9 figures and beyond, and I've actually been involved intimately with companies that have been over $1 billion. And what I've seen in every case is that those CEOs, those founders, those entrepreneurs that are most willing to adjust and change their behaviors are the ones who ascend the fastest and create the biggest impact in the world. Does this make sense to everybody? Because here's something I want you to know about this myth that's out there about businesses. How many of you have heard this really nice saying, what got you here won't get you there? How many of you have heard that? Wrong. What got you here will kill you going forward. It will shred you. It will put you through a meat grinder. You'll be exhausted. Your adrenals will be shot. You'll end up in a doctor's office. You'll end up laying on the floor staring at the ceiling. You must change your behavior or it will break you. No matter how strong you are. And I know that there's a lot of people in here who have massive resolve and you're incredibly strong. But if you don't change behavior, it will crush you. Let me show you why. What? What were you going to say? Yeah. You're there, aren't you? I can feel it. I feel a hot seat coming on for you for some reason. You might have to get up on stage later. We have to figure out what's going on. See, the transition from builder to operator is where you hit the 2 comma club and your annual revenue goes from 1 to 3 million. And in the United States, there's only 700,000. When I walk through the bathroom hallway at ClickFunnels, because that's where all the 2 comma club awards are, it's not because it's in the bathroom hallway. It's because they're running a $100 million company out of 5,600 square feet, and that's the only wall space they have. It's not a judgment that they put them in the bathrooms. But when I walk through there, it gives me this crazy perspective that it's just normal to mint $1 million companies because there's only 700,000 out of 29 million. How many of you are shocked by that? It's 3%, less than 3% of companies ever hit $1 million. So when I go to events where it's mostly seekers, because every once in a while I'll get called to speak at an event where almost everyone in the room is starting out. when I spoke for Dave Ramsey, almost everyone in the room starting out, and you ask people their goals, and if their goal isn't to hit 1 million in the next year, it's to hit 10. I'm always like, man, that's the most painful goal in the world to have when you're at 0. Because 7 figures, you can't even see it from 0. Let's bring that target closer. Let's make it real. Let's make it achievable so you can actually crush through it. When you're an operator, your time is now in this crazy place where you're not working overtime anymore. You now have to start delegating your time. Other people have to do what you do. So you build systems and processes around what you do well in the level before. Now you have to have people start filling in. And we go through this massive transition that most entrepreneurs never make. I want you to understand, from this level, from builder to operator is huge. Because we have to go from asking the question, how do I get ahead, to how do we get ahead? And let's be real, people like us are scared of we. Right? We feels like exposure. We feels like responsibility. We feels intimidating, right? But we have to make this transition, because if you get into the 1 to 3 million asking, how do I get ahead? You're dead. It's gonna suck. And you will go back down 1 million. There is so many entrepreneurs who get up over 7 figures, come right back down, get right back up over 7 figures. How many of you guys have done that? I know I did before I understood this stuff. I was all over the place. The fallback question is, how does my team get ahead? And that is one of the hardest transitions for us to make, because we go from asking, how do I do it, to how do I help everybody do it? How does my team get ahead? How do I help the people around me? And how many of you are good managers? Yeah, I mean, I even had somebody claim to be a communicator. Nobody's claiming to be a manager. Right? Let's be honest, you're a good manager?
No, that says, how's my team get me ahead? Is that a different way?
Oh, so it's now the team supporting you to get ahead.
Okay, I thought you said, how do I get my team ahead?
You're right, that's the next one, but thanks for pointing it out. I skipped one. But this is where we have to start involving a team. Yeah. And this is where the team has to support you. And you're in the early leverage stages at six figures. This is where it's real. Like, people are actually doing stuff and you don't know how they're doing it. You just have to accept the outcome, right? And it's crazy. Yeah, what did you say?
Scary as shit.
Yeah, scary as ship zoom. But it's terrifying, because for now we are taking our success and we're giving the ball to someone else. And let's be honest, like, we don't really like to give the ball to anybody. But, right? I mean, how many of you played single sports most of your life? Let's be real. And your biggest need is to scale consistent delivery. So guys, does this all add up? Because if you get to 1 to 3 million, if you haven't simplified and made it easier and made processes easier and built processes around what you do well, you get here, you can't scale consistent delivery. Everything still feels broken. So this is where the point where we have to shift. How many operators in the room? 1 to 3 million. Show me your hands really high. Natalie, sweet. All right, cool. Congratulations, guys. 3%. 3%. Yeah, round of applause. And to graduate, scariest statement I'm going to make yet. Build a team and train them to do what you do well. Oh, crap. Not the stuff I like doing. Oh, yeah, the stuff you like doing. The stuff you're really good at. The stuff that you've always thought was what made you special, you now have to let somebody else do it. Natalie?
I felt like I was the only one that could speak in a way that my audience would listen to and resonate. And so then I would try to bring people on to do that piece of what I was doing. And then I realized I brought people on in the wrong areas. And then I was like, okay, so I need to outsource other parts and keep doing what I do well. And then we had to put in systems and I had to release, I hate talking to my team. I mean, I did, at least before I met Alex. I hated having meetings. I would literally shut down. I can't believe my team, they should have quit on, I had one girl that should have quit on me, Ashley, like 20 times, because I would be in like rock star mode, like going, and then I'd feel overwhelmed, and I would like literally go into the mountains for a week and have no Wi-Fi, no phone service, and she'd be like, Natalie, where did you go?
Well, yeah. You got to tell them up front that you wouldn't tell anybody you were doing that.
I would
Like,
just,
Natalie
I'd be
was
like,
just like a missing person all of a sudden.
I'd be overwhelmed, and I'd go like catch fish and live off the land for a week, and like it was crazy for real. And so then I'd come back, and then I was like, this doesn't work. We're gonna fail if we keep doing this. And so what I started to learn was that if I brought people on that were really good, like there's people out there who are amazing operators and amazing managers. It's just not me. And so I brought Ashley in, and I trusted her, and like she was the implementer of everything that Alex is gonna teach. And now we like work together so well that like we have our daily huddles, we have our Monday meetings, and like because we're doing all the things that Alex is gonna I think you're gonna teach this weekend.
Well, now I have to, but yeah.
Sorry, but like the pressure and noise on my shoulders is not there because like everybody else does such a good job of it. I just had to like give permission to do it, and we had to have a system to make it work. Because before we were just like, I don't know what to do. I've never hired somebody before. I've never had a Monday meeting. I don't know. And so now that we have a structure, it's so much easier because it allows me to just focus on what I'm good at, which is writing and connecting with people. Instead of bringing people on to write, I realized I have to keep that piece of the business, but I can bring everybody else on to do the other pieces that I'm just not good at. So
Thanks, Natalie. It's awesome. Yeah. Here's the thing I want you to understand at Operator. The things that you think you do so well that nobody else can do are exaggerated like crazy. There's really a couple things you do well enough that nobody else should do them. And if you want to grow, you have to specialize as an entrepreneur. And the definition of CEO is you do what you're best at and build the team around you. I have entrepreneurs all the time tell me, I don't know if I could be a CEO. I'm like, you already are. You just don't know it yet. And you build a team around what you do well, but all of us have to decide what that is, and it better be close to nothing. Because as you go up the Billionaire code, you will hear me say this over the next 2 days over and over, volume creates complexity. The sheer fact that you are growing the business creates complexity. As the business gets bigger, the surface area of what's new, like this is physics, this is math. As a business grows, the surface area of what's new is bigger. So your exposure is bigger. That complexity is bigger. So you have to make sure you are specializing on very little. And so you have to build a team and train them to do what you do well. Every time I talk to an entrepreneur who's like, I could never give up, and then insert whatever dumb thing in the company they're talking about. But I have entrepreneurs tell me, well, no, I have to keep the books. What? What accounting degree do you have? Well, I've got really special books, like more special than Tesla or like Ford or something, because I'm sure Elon's sitting down on the weekends and like tallying everything up. What kind of company do you want to run? So you're not only the biggest driving force in your business, but are you ready for this? You are the biggest constraint in your business. So you have to let go. You're not just the biggest driving force in your business. You are, and always will be, the most significant constraint in your business. Yep. He just was like, what the F? It's true. Because you and your ability to change behavior over and over is what will grow your business. Natalie? Yeah. So you are the biggest constraint now and forever. So your ability to build a team around you, change your behavior, do new things on a daily basis, and modify what you focus on is exactly what will drive the growth of your organization. And when you get here, that's the bottom line. You build a team and train them to do what you do well. You need to give up everything that you think you do well. When Katie and I went bankrupt in 2007, we were in South Florida. Previous to that, I'd run a really successful consultancy. I sold it. I made a ton of cash. Then we went into real estate. Can you tell there's foreshadowing coming? In the early 2000s. So we were in Florida. We built a massive, over $40 million real estate empire. We had a acquisition company. We had a rehab company. We had a property management company. And then in 2007, Our portfolio lost 65% of its value overnight. We lost everything. It was brutal. And as we were rebuilding, I built an information product called the Certified Distressed Property Expert. Anybody in real estate that recognizes that? Yeah, there's usually a few. Yeah. And in the first year, in 2008, I went out and I taught personally in a room like this, 1,500 real estate agents. Like every couple weeks, I was in a new city teaching a room of anywhere from like on a bad week, 7, like those were bad weeks, and on a good week, 200 or 300 agents. And I did it all myself. And the one thing I couldn't imagine ever handing off to anybody was speaking. Because that's what I do well. I already told you, I said one of the few things in the world I do well is this. And then the demand for that product went crazy. In our first year, we did 1,500. In our second year, we did 15,000. And it exploded. Dave Linegar, the CEO of Remax, endorsed us. There's no way we could keep up with the volume. I had to start training speakers to go out and speak for me. It was the scariest thing in the world I've ever done. It was like handing my baby to somebody else. And ever since the beginning, we had gotten comments back from people. We had people rank the class on a scale of 1 to 5 so that we knew like where things were. By the way, if you have an information product, you should be getting a ton of feedback. That's how you make it better and stay ahead of your competition. And so we constantly were getting feedback. And within 6 months, my speakers were getting better feedback than me. I was so happy. No, really, it wasn't a good day for me. I was like, what's going on? But then I realized, like, that was the only way that business was going to grow. That was the only way we were going to go to where we wanted to go. And so every one of you, it's the same thing. You build a team and you give up what you do well and you specialize. And then you get to the next level and you shift from operator to leader. This is an interesting journey because now you're going to that 2 comma club X. You're going to 8 figures, from 3 to 10 million. And this is that place where things get really crazy because from 3 to 10 million, there are only 300,000 businesses in the United States. Only 300,000. So when I go into that room of people who've never been in business before, and I'm like, what is your goal? $10 million. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet and so sad.
That's true.
Right? 4 out of 1,000 businesses get to 10 million. You know how I said write some stuff down? Maybe write that down. 4 out of 1,000. Because I want you to remind yourself the level of behavioral change you have to go through in order to do this. And the time, now guys, here's where it gets weird. We go from delegating time, like having people do stuff for us, where at 3 to 10 million, you now have to delegate success, not delegate time. That's a big difference. You have to delegate the outcome and then step away and let someone else succeed. Because at 3 to 10 million, the person who's helping you run the business is running a company as big as you just ran. They're going through all the same transitions you are running or we're going through. And so 3 to 10 million, your fallback question is now, how does my team get ahead? It goes from how does my team get me ahead to now you have to reverse that and now start thinking exclusively about them. This is fact. Your ability to grow a business past 8 figures will be directly proportionate to your ability to build a team and support them. That's it. That's it. So this becomes the most important thing you do. When people come to me for help, we want to see a high level of commitment. Because here's what I believe is the most important thing we do as entrepreneurs in a business. We do 3 things. 1, create a strategic plan. 2, create the communication system so everyone in our company understands it. And 3, build the infrastructure of the business around us. How many of you agree with those 3 things? And if you don't treat that like the most important thing you do, you won't get past this. Because your biggest need here is not just building the team, now you have to scale the team. And things get weird when you scale a team. I mean, I remember having a $10 million company with 90 people walking into the building and going, who's that guy? Oh, he's been here for 2 months. Really? Yeah. Like, you don't even know everybody anymore, personally. You're delegating success to people you don't know. Things get weird. And to graduate, you now have to recruit and develop a leadership team, which means you're not just sharing success, you're sharing the role of leadership, which is kind of hokey for most of us because you just learned how to become a leader the level before. Now you have to coach and manage leaders. How many of you have tried that transition? How many of you are here, 3 to 10 million? Hands up high, congratulations, man. That's awesome. Are you the CEO?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. 3 to 10 million, Wallace? There was another one, Brad? All right, nice. And recently, right?
Yeah.
How recently, 3 to 10?
At the beginning of the year, we were just below $1 million. And then we signed up to work with Russell. So, well, Russell got us to $1 million. And in just the last 7 months, we're on a run rate of almost 5 now.
That's so awesome. I didn't know it had gone that high. Congrats, man. So awesome. So when you graduate from this level, you have a leadership team around you. And I'm going to put the big chart up again, because I want you to understand every level here. Here's what's interesting. You can't stop anything that you do here. Each level you graduate, you have to delegate everything in that level to one of 3 things: a person, a process, or a product. Everything. A person, a process, or a product in your company. Leverage lead generation. Heck, man, I delegated that to a person, a process, and a product. I have a team that runs lead generation through processes with ClickFunnels. And so you have to shore up every single level with a person, a product, or a process. And if you do, you go from leader to owner, $10 million plus. In the United States, there's only about 100,000 businesses. It makes the wall of 2 Comma Club X plaques even more impressive. When you look at owner, now, here's what's bizarre. You just learned how to delegate success, and now, as entrepreneurs, we give up autonomy of time. Here's what that means. At $10 million plus, you have to allow your team to manage you. Your team knows where you should be spending your time better than you do. At $10 million plus, if you are dictating where you spend your time, you're a liability, because you can't possibly see everything going on in the business and where you should be. Your team has to tell you where to go. And so it's hard enough for us to delegate success, but now we have to give up autonomy of time. It feels like we're going backwards when it comes to our time. So you have to have systems and processes so you delegate and you give up autonomy of time in a way that doesn't make you crazy. How many of you feel like a little intimidated by thinking that someone else would run your entire schedule? Yeah. I can tell you it's the most liberating thing in the world. My personal assistant manages me. Actually, we joke, she's my babysitter. It's not really a joke, but anyway. Because when it comes to time, like, I'm terrible with calendars. How many of you have a calendar issue? Like, Natalie, I know you do, right? Like, when somebody rolls out one of those whiteboard calendars with the big how many are like, right? Yeah, the recent blog. I'm going to play that for you guys. That's like one of the commonalities with every billionaire I've ever known. They hate calendars. They can't stand like even looking at them. They don't like to talk about it. They like to be given like a sheet of paper or an itinerary or an agenda or something with intention so that they can just go attack a day. But when it comes to all that stuff in the squares, like, what is all that? Because, I mean, time is pretty ambiguous for people like us, right? How many of you have changed your life in one day? Completely and totally. Yeah, so time means nothing to us. You can do it like that, or you can take 2 years, but like it to us, it's like it's very ambiguous. And so here you give up autonomy of time. And you continue to ask, how does my team get ahead? But now it's, how does my team get further ahead? Your ability to develop your team means everything. Your biggest need, and this is big, is to scale communication systems so everyone's on the same page, and scale decision making, because you can't even pretend to make all the decisions at 10 to 30 million. You have to let other people drive decision-making, drive outcomes, drive success. And if you have a leadership team at 10 to 30 million, you have a leadership team of 5 people at 30 million, they're each probably responsible for around $6 million in business, which means they need help delegating and getting their time. Does everybody see how this works? And as you go through owner, in order to graduate, you have to create multiple levels of leadership, which means you will now be one step removed from people leading people in your company. And again, you just learned how to lead one person. Now you have a string and a chain of command. And so if there's not systems and processes there, if things get messy here, if it's not clear, if you don't have a cadence and a system around how you do this, it will crush you. But when you do, this can be one of the most incredible and rewarding places to be. Because when you build a business to this level, everyone in the building, if they know where you're going and they understand where they stand and they know their responsibilities, everyone will grow like crazy. Your entire team gets into momentum, and you see the collective power of having a team that knows what they're doing, knows the score, and understands their responsibilities, and it will change who you are as an entrepreneur. And as you create those multiple levels of leadership and you go past owner, you graduate into what we call investor. This is 30 to 100 million. There's only 70,000 companies in the United States at this level. How many of you are here? Is there anyone in the room? Where? Nice, really? That's awesome. Congratulations, man. No wonder you look so stressed. I'm just kidding. I'm right though, right? Yeah. I'm glad you're here. This will be huge for you over the next couple days. Because at 30 to, what were you gonna say?
I'm in part of the team.
Oh, you're part of the team. Okay. You brought the team.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
You brought team. Where are you from?
Argentina.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Let's connect later on. I always get very excited when there's a Latin American in the room who has the highest number, so I just want to show you. Right? Little brown power there, so respect. All of you can catch up. Time, this is intense. You have to shift now. Your time is about coaching and supporting your team to maximize their return on time because they're going through what you just went through and they have to give up autonomy of time. So at 30 to 100 million, your team now is managed by their team. So you have 2 steps removed of managing your time to your leaders' times to the leaders below them. Does this all make sense? Do you see how this transition happens not just to you, but to the people on your team over and over again? Your fallback question is, how do we help others get ahead? At 30 to 100 million, it's about partnerships, JVs. It's about going out and finding the organizations that are going to give you the leverage that you need to get to the next level. Your biggest need is scalable investment management and tracking systems. Because at 30 to 100 million, you have to understand everything that's going on in your business, and it's not that easy, is it? It's overwhelming. Because at this level, there's stuff going on every day you don't even know. You won't know that year. You won't understand everything going on in the business. You can't possibly try to. You have to have systems and feedback that shows you what's happening in your business so that you can make high-level decisions without knowing all the details. And it's absolutely possible with the right structure and the right cadence. You're going to have a system where you can project forward into the future what the outcome is, and you can show everyone in your company the process you're going to use to get there. Yeah, because here's the scariest part. Here's the scariest part, and you know this. The scariest part of letting go of the outcome is if there's not a system there, all you have is trust, and that doesn't work. Because, I know that all of us are trusting people. Do you see this? Right? Because it's like trust and verify. Right? So to graduate from investor, you have to no longer just focus on growing a leadership team. You have to grow a leadership development system because the biggest constraint you create here is a lack of leadership in your company. Because has everybody seen that traditional org chart? You know the org chart that goes like this? Well, that thing grows exponentially as your business grows. And what you have to have is people to fill in at the top. Because as you fill in the lower levels of exposure, you have to have people who can help you run this thing. And if you want your business to survive long term, from 30 to 100 million, you better grow a leadership development system where you train people to make decisions like you do. You show them how to grow business like you do. You show them how to take care of your team like you do. And if you do this, that's how your business grows. You look at the best businesses in the world, Google, Facebook, Tesla, SpaceX, all of them have massive leadership development systems. My cousin is a program manager at Apple. Whenever I say product, he gets really ticked off because apparently program's like way above product. And I'm like, isn't it just, they're both P managers? He gets mad. But he's a program manager at Apple, and he is in leadership development classes all the time. And I look at entrepreneurial businesses, and we think of training as a waste of time. You look at the massive companies that are changing the world, and they look at training as the biggest investment in time. And that's why here you must grow a leadership development system. And if you do, you can graduate from investor to what we call entrepreneur. $100 million plus. Is there anybody in the room? Huh? There's one. Yeah. Russell and his team are going to get there. To give you guys perspective on how extraordinary that is, there's 22,000 in the United States. And they've done it in like 4 years or 3 years, which still, yeah. It still blows me away. I've been involved with some of the most significant product launches in the history of the world. Literally, I was intimately involved with the launch of the first digital camera in the United States, the first memory cards in the United States. We work with SanDisk from pre-product. We worked with Fuji before, like when our first digital camera didn't have a viewfinder and it took pictures that looked like you made them with Legos. You know what I'm talking about? And so I've been involved in some crazy fast growth companies. I've never seen anything like ClickFunnels. 22,000 in the United States, and they're doing it in under 5 years. When you get to entrepreneur, your time is you invest and give away leverage time. So you see Russell do this all the time. He invests his time with his team. Like Russell got on stage at Grant Cardone's event and sold $3 million in product. He wanted to have his first $1 million day. He did 3. Isn't that crazy? In 90 minutes. Like, is that leverage time? It's like the most leverage time I've ever seen. What most people don't understand is 30 days later, after Russell beat his single day selling record for his entire life at 3 million, he did 12 into this program. Crazy. 90 minutes, $12 million. Do some math on that. It's insane how much he's making a minute. Really. I feel so lucky he's here. He's like crazy. The dude can buy a Lamborghini every 45 seconds. Your primary focus is to maximize your legacy and contribution, and you see Russell doing that. I mean, it's intense how he's naturally just doing this. His new podcast on the Book of Mormon, his Operation Underground Railroad, like that entire organization has changed because Russell decided to get involved. Like he shows up in a room, the entire texture of the room changes. You're watching it firsthand by being able to be led by somebody like him. The fallback question is, how do we help everyone? Your team becomes a full conglomerate need. Your biggest need is to scale your influence and your contribution, and to graduate, you grow your legacy. And this is the Billionaire Code. Each level has a massive significance transition. Did you guys see that? But I want to show you some of the big ones. So this one is where you go full time. When you switch from starter to promoter, you're all in. If you guys are over 100,000 and you're not all in yet, that's your problem. If you're doing something on the side, if you have a side hustle, if you're still making money in another job, if somebody's paying you hourly and you're over 6 figures, you got to just give it up and go. Dive in. And you have to trust that you will make it to the other side. And by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll give you the system so that you know you'll make it to the other side. The second major transition is where you go from builder to operator. You must leverage your time. You have to give it up. You have to let go of the outcome. And this is where it starts. I remember every time my therapist said that, I lovingly wanted to punch her in the face, right? She would say, well, Alex, you just haven't let go of the outcome. But that's how it works. And then the next major transition is from leader to owner, is where you start aggressively buying back your time. This is where you will spend money to get minutes back in the day. People wonder, like, private jets, like, why do people use private jets? Well, I have friends that it would be silly for them to even consider going on a commercial airliner. When they can get somewhere in an hour and 15 minutes, and instead commercial would take a total 5-hour round trip, there's no way. Like, those 4 hours mean so much that the $40,000, $50,000 flight is totally worth it. Right? You aggressively buy back your time. And then the last one is legacy time. This is where you focus on your legacy. And guys, I put this up here for a reason. It's because far too many entrepreneurs are right over here and they're talking about legacy. Like, they're leaving their mark on the world at $40K a year. It doesn't work. It's not, nobody listens. You want people to listen to you? Go create a $100 million company and anyone will listen to what you say. You want to leave a legacy? Create a massive infrastructure where you've had tons of influence and people will say, this is someone we should listen to. But if you're in the lower levels of the Billionaire Code and you're working on your legacy project, you are in the wrong place. Build an infrastructure, build a business, build success, sell a ton of stuff, and you can do whatever you want with your legacy. If Richard Branson shows up in a room, does it change the room? Heck yeah. He can influence the entire world with an Instagram post. Get there and work on your legacy. And if you go through this Billionaire Code like we just shared, here's what we'll do. We will shrink that contribution gap. We will raise the infrastructure to close to the contribution you want to make. But I want you guys to know something. When it comes to entrepreneurship, there's no perfection. It's never going to be right. You're always going to feel restless agitation. I don't care if you're $100 million plus. I was in Russell's office yesterday, and he is calm and centered and grounded and restlessly agitated at 100 million plus. And all of you will be. Because what we'll do over the next 2 days is I'm going to show you a system and a structure where we do this. We take that contribution gap to imperceptible levels where you can continuously outbuild your company around what you want to do. What was your question, Olga?
Where is Charfen company in this Billionaire Code?
Where are we?
Yeah.
Well, we own interests in some companies that are in the middle or high, and our organization right now, so we restarted Charfen Holdings, which is our coaching company, in July of last year, and right now we're just over the $2.5 million mark. So in 12 months. Yeah. Thanks, Olga.